This stuff here, Yerushalmi Eruvin, in the article Ozwa additional on Daf Lamed Zayin Half, started the Gemara, which is the fifth line down, which in the Vilna is on Daf Lamed Dalet Amud Beis, starting the Gemara, which is right after the Mishnah, Valacha Gimel. Kama midas atchum. Well, we said in the Mishnah that use a rope of 50 amos in order to measure the chum. How many ropes do you need? So, kama midas atchum, arba'in chavalim. You measure 40 ropes. It's going to be the same rope, obviously, over and over again, but 40 rope lengths. Lo pachas, you shouldn't be less than 50 amos, the length of each rope. Shunimtach, because then the two people are going to be able to pull it. It's somewhat taller, and it's going to be a little bit more than 50 amos. Finiskar, and you're going to get more than 2,000 amos. So yes, it shouldn't be longer than 50 amos, because you nikmas, because you can't pull it so taut. It contracts, and mafsid, you're going to lose of your count. Is tani modi bechevel shel pishton. Some say use a linen rope. Is tani bechevel shel shalosh lach, which the commentator changes to shalshelis, a chain, a metal links. Is tani, some say, our mission said 50 amos, but no, use tani bechevel shel arba amos, 4 amma. Argues our Mishnah and says it'd be 4 amma rope, which would be 500 rope lengths. Rabbi Yoshua said, "In chamida shel ms ela shel shalas." Can't be shel shalas here. It won't be a proper mida because of the expansion of rope and the contraction of rope, unless you actually use metal, which then you can make to be doesn't contract and expand. Avama said, but what can I do? It says in the Navi, "Chavolim upsil plishtim biyada uknei." He had a rope and strands of linen in his hands and the measuring rod. So evidently we have a source in Tanakh for the use of rope made out of linen. This one now gives a very interesting scenario, which I'm sure came up all the time. You're 75 amos away from a nachal. Now this nachal, let's say it's 49 amos across, you'll be able to mavlei it. Right, that's not a problem. But you have to get to the nachal first. So the question is, you can't traverse it with 2 rope lengths because it can end up in the middle of the nachal. Right, so you can't go from zero to 50, and then from 50 to 100, because that 100 is going to be in the middle of the nachal. You need to get to the rim, which is 75 amos away from you right now. So how do you get there? So there's going to have machlokas amoraim how you get there. The first amora is going to say, and I'll read inside after I say it outside. The first amora says that you measure your 50 amos from 0 to 50. Then you go back 25 amos, go back to amma 25. And then measure from 25 to 75. And then at amma 75, you'll be mavliya your nachal from one rim to the other rim. But the other mandamar says you never go back. You measure from 0 to 50, and then up to the rim of nachal, you use short ropes, right? Because you only have 25 amos left. So you use ropes 4 amos. I don't know if 4 amos is dafka, but use short ropes in order to get there. So one mandamar holds you go back, and then you go from 0 to 50, then back to 25, and then you go from 25 to 75, and then you go across the nachal. And the mandamar holds you go from 0 to 50, then you go to 54, 58, 62, etc., etc. Okay, let's see it inside. So, I am man on the nachal shiva chamesh amma, from you to the nachal, there's 75 amos. So, trei amorain, there's a mouth amorain, what do you do? You measure from 0 to 50 with your chevel 50 amos, your rope of 50 amos. You go back 25 amos, and then you measure to the rim with your again with your rope of 50. And the says, you measure from 0 to 50 with your 50 amma rope. And the rest, which is the other 25 amos, till you get to this fast nachal. So modi bechevel shel arba amos, use a rope of 4 amos, the shorter rope, in order to encompass that distance. Okay, another interesting scenario. Now, according to the gears we have in front of us, which is everybody's gears except for Reb Chaim and them and the Pnei Meir, it means that the river, they had a wadi which was narrow on top, and then inside the wadi, inside the trench, whatever it is, it expanded. So it was like there were ledges over the top of the trench, and then inside the trench expanded underneath. It should be easy to pick one's minds. I don't have a picture of it, but okay, that should be easy enough. So then, according to our Girsa, so then you if there's up to 50 amas across the top, even though below it expands, the trench expands to much broader than that. Nevertheless, you measure based on the top, on the surface, and it's less 50 amas on the surface. So then you can just be mavliad despite whatever surface the extent of the surface is below. It's kind of similar to this case in the Bavli. It's not the same case, but it's similar. Obviously, this is a cave, not a trench. But you'll see that here also you have the extent. It extends. The walls go outwards when you go down, right? So we measure across the top, regardless of how much the walls expand below. So again, it's not exactly this case, obviously, but it's similar in the principle. So Vimlav, and if it's not, it's more than 50 amos. So then across the top, of course. And this is not a trench, it's a cave, but you get the pencil. It's more than 50 amos across the top. So then you have to look at it and see if it goes down. If he scuttles down, and it scuttles up and scuttles down. So the idea is that you have to take into account the area at the bottom of the bottom of the trench. Of course, the walls go backwards, so you're not counting the walls. You're just scuttling down them. But you're going to take into account the surface area at the bottom. So the Reb Chaim learns it differently. Reb Chaim changed the gears, as I said, and learns the opposite. It's narrower on the bottom and wide on the top. And it's a conventional case of like our Mishnah. He says, Yanacho Rachav Milamalon and Tsar Milamaton. So, but in any event, most unfortunately leave it the way we have it over here. So we'll learn like the gears we have over here. Hayanacham Ukam. If the trench was crooked, the Pnei Moshe explains that Nachum Ukam she'ein shipur olech lumato kedercham shupah doesn't go down on a gradient, so it can be go measured easily. Shipur sometimes it goes down on a gradual incline. V'yeshkamas bob is keep on some places it's a precipice, like a mountain or a cliff. So you can't measure it even with the Makajim Baharim. We kind of use the 4 amma measure where the guy steps down like we saw previously. So then Chisda Amar Mitzupos means you take one of these telescope implements or whatever kind of tool they had back then, like we had with Rambam Gamliel and the Mishnah when they came into the port. And you reckon with your eyes. The Mishor, you do it on a level. Came Bahar, and then you go do it on the mountain. So I don't know exactly what it means, but presumably it's like this picture, and not like this picture, obviously, because here we're using some novel method of using putting a rope across with some sort of support in the middle. But like you have this is the difficult riverbed, the trench to measure. So you go over here and you reckon over here. You estimate here in the area where it's straight, and then you extrapolate from there, the place where it's straight, to the place where it is mountainous, and try and figure out exactly by your perspective how it's going to work out across the place where it's difficult to measure. He's learning new, and the Mu'ukam is going on the Mnei Moshe learning Mu'ukam is going on the shape of the incline down. The Reb Chaim says this carbon Ada, that it's the shape of the trench as it's on the map. In other words, it's too complicated in shape in order to measure precisely, I guess, in going across, and therefore you make a visual estimate. According to him, also, he says it's both, it's Bahar, I guess, with like a different scenario. In other words, they say you do this both going down by Mukam and also by Har Mukam, by Mishar Bapena Bimishor, because also came higher the same way you did this. By the gay, you also do this, the reckoning at the surface level, and then do a similar reckoning when you have a typical amount to measure as well. Rabbi Acha, Rabbi Chin, Rabbi Yerushalmi Eruvin Bar Yitzchak said, "Fushate mida yotze bar arbot v'chin k'dei makom." Interesting idea. We have a picture in the Reb Chaim. The only time you have to take the slope into account is if there's more, if it's more than 4 tefachim across. So here the slope begins, here the slope ends. This is 4 tefachim. So then you have to take the slope into account, and you have to be mekader. But if less than 4 tefachim, then that slope is not significant, and you just ignore it, and you don't count it as part of your account of the 2,000 amos. There's a similar picture in the article, just he puts the 4 tefachim across the top. Same idea. It's the 4 tefachim across the top over there. So it's the 4 tefachim at the bottom. But it's the same principle. Anyway, so back to Mekadrim, he said he used how you measure slopes when they're more than 4 tefachim. So Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Avuna b'shem Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda Mati ba b'shem Rav. Yehuda was inclined to say the name of Rav. Ha'el Knega Rosho, the top fellow does the opposite head. V'tachton Knega Raglav, and the bottom one negative opposite his legs. The tachton is, it's not lav dafka, but Knega Rosho. It's the top picture you see. One guy, the bottom guy actually, puts it opposite his head, and the next guy puts it opposite his feet. Right? That's how you're makader. The picture. It's close enough. So the Helio means the guy, I guess, who puts it on top over his head, and Tachton, the guy who puts it below him, even though he's up higher up the mountain. Kneged Raglov. Klama Moide. Everybody concedes. It should be the Meichal Mayim. The Chashuvin changed it to Meshem Mekadrin. That you are you're Mekader. But the question is how much. And the Meichal Mayim also changed the next line to Vafilu. Not the next words, not not Helium, but Afilu Elio Knega Rosho. And even if the top guy is opposite his head, but most of them, the bottom guy is opposite his hips. That also, people agree that this also works. Which obviously less, you're getting less that way, right? Head and hips. Ma pligin, what's their machlokas? So here the Meichamayim again puts in the Girsa, but Elyon Neged Raglov, the top guy is opposite his foot, but Tachton Neged Libo, the bottom guy is next to his heart. The article is not changed Girsa here, and he has here that just connected Libo like this. So he's opposite his head, he's opposite his heart. There's not much Mekadrin going on there. So obviously there are different slopes. You can see that. So the question is, according to the how acute does the slope have to be in order to say Mekadrin? If it's a gradual slope like that bottom slope, where you just go like this a little bit, so then you say Mekadrin, you measure the surface area. But that's going to the article's picture. The article, the way the article pictures worth 1,000 words. So the article is laying the sugya that this is it's a question of how gradual the slope is. If the slope is extremely intense, so then you're makadrin. If the slope is gradual, right, and depends, and it has to do with how where the rope would be easiest to hold, so to speak. So then you're not makader. But most of the Farshim don't learn that way. Most Farshim learn that it's a question of how, what the, just like I said before, the rope itself can contract or expand, and therefore it's an issue not to use too long rope, not to use too short rope. So to here, it's a question of what's considered to be a proper makadrin, that you're not going to give too little to the tchum and not going to give too much to the tchum. So that again, let's read it with the Mechal Mayim's Girsa, the way he's saying it. It says, Rabbi Yosef, Ravuna b'shem Rav Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Mata b'shem Rav, Hay Keneged Rosha, V'atachnu Keneged Raglov. That's very makader. Kama Madish Makadrin. So everybody agrees in makader. Then it should be V'afila Elyon Keneged Rosha, Tachnu Keneged Mosnav. Kama Madish Makadrin. Everybody agrees in makader. That's going to be proper. My pligin, what's a machlekes? Elyon Keneged Raglov. Again, with Mechamai's Girsa, Helyon Neged Raglov, V'tachton Keneged Libo. The top guy opposite his legs, and the bottom guy Keneged Libo. So I may remember Makadrin, when it says Makadrin that way, then that's all it's in Makadrin. And Makadrin is not Makadrin because you're not going to give a proper tchum, because the measurement's going to be off. In this case, actually, they give him too little. They give him more. You shouldn't give him that little. Okay. So Rabbi Bar b'shem Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Zir b'shem Marukwa said, "Ein mekadrin melchevel shel 50 amo." You know, mekadrin with a rope of 50 amos. It's a little bit of medrash pliya, because you're gaining very little, obviously. But if you're mekadrin, one guy holds it here, one guy holds it there, right? The way around, whatever. So over 50 amos, you're not going to get as much as if you do every 4 amos. But he says that's no 4 amo ropes, only 50 amo ropes. Rabbi Zir saying Rabbi Chizdoi, Ein Mekadrin, and here in the Gemara Makos it says instead of El Baharim, it says Lo Barei Levim Lo Mokom Egla Ruf Lo Mokom Egla Ruf. In other words, he said we mentioned when we learned the Mishnah the last Mishnah a while ago, perhaps something. But Naaman, that reference to one of the first year it was only by Tchum Shabbos, so they make it the same Makadrin. They make it to give you that you don't have to do the hypotenuse. You do the side of the triangle as your measurement, not because it's the Rabbanan, but not by Ari Levim, where you give the 2,000 amas as the migrash, and not Egla Rufa, which is 2,000 measured towards the closest city in terms of a murderer. So there you don't makader, you go directly according to the shape, the slope of the earth. You include all. Okay, so the question is how we look at the cross-referencing these psukim in terms of Tchum Shabbos, even though Tchum Shabbos is Rabbanan. So actually, Chaim changed the girsa here. It seems a very obvious change, and the change is evidently the same in the Yerushalmi as Makos there, at least according to one version. So, Nichu Mandar Elf Migrash V'Apayim Sodas Ukramim. That the Torah itself never has even a smachta to Tchum Shabbos. So then you can differentiate and say that the Elifah, when it says 1,000, 2,000 by the Ravim, 1,000 referring to the open areas, and the 2,000 amos referring to additional 1,000 amos of Saras Ukramim. So then we don't extrapolate from one to the other. Elif Amma Migrash. But according to the opinion, it shows that 1,000 amos is the open area, and then Apayim, the second 1,000 amos, up to 2,000 amos, is Tchum Shabbos. So if that's the case, it seems that Tchum Shabbos, at the very least, is a smachta in the Torah, perhaps even the limud d'oraisa. Tchum Shabbos l'tchum ar labim. Are you not learning from Tchum Shabbos from Tchum ar labim? L'ikra mekadrin to the source halacha. The ar labim a mekadrin. We don't do mekadrin. We don't gain you that additional amount by doing the short rope. L'tfei mekadrin for the thing which is derived. The Tchum Shabbos, you are mekader, So the Gemara doesn't answer. But I think the obvious answer is that, well, it's an asmach, that's not really the Raisa. But okay, but in any event, that's the Gemara's question. A new issue, which is obviously not directly relevant to us, but it's brought down here, Derek Agav. How you know you can't make batei kvaros within the tchum, the 2,000 amos around the Orei Levim? Right, because those areas, the areas around the city, those yards, those open areas, you have them, their animals, and all of their livestock, all of their livelihood, l'chaim nitnu, they're given for, when it says chayosam, we darshan it not just for their livestock, or their chayos, or the chayosam, their livelihood, but l'chaim nitnu, of course, they're given for the living, and not given for their, for graves. Okay, look at that. That's the person who measures has to be an expert, surveyor. If you have the tchum going, we have a contradiction in tchum. According to one, it seems according to one expert, it goes out further, and according to another expert, it comes in closer. And the same person did it in a way it was inconsistent. In one place it seemed to go out further, and one place came in closer, but you were using a mumcha, right? Shem Lamar, you go according to the it's obviously Rabbanan. You can make you go according to the person who extended out further. I feel shivcha, even a eved or a shivcha is nemonim, is believed. Lamar the ad kan chum Shabbos, the chum Shabbos goes out till here. Even seems that they're being pretty lenient. Shalom were not machmir in this matter. They were meko. Okay, so the Gemara says hahediot shariba ein shamilo. This it's when it says that he had two opinions. One was marba, one was might. We'll listen to marba, but only if it's an expert, not if it's a hediot. Hediot shariba ein shamilo. So Amar Rabbi said higyucha sov tchum Shabbos. You have come to the end. In other words, to the final principle of Tchum Shabbos, she'eino mechuvarim di b'Torah. They're not the clear. They have no basis in the Torah itself. So Raimana said and asked, Nicha pai mama in mechuvar. 2,000 amos is not the Raisa. But Arba Basalafim Amma mechuvaru. He had a Masorah that 4,000 amos are mida Raisa. Okay, so therefore he said 4,000 amos is the Raisa. So therefore 4,000 amos it should, at least isn't according to the Raisa. No, says Rabbi Shem Karsa, Rabbi Shem Rabbi Yachol said, and that I don't think is in the Bavli. That Rabbi Shem Karsa, Shem Rabbi Yachol, this shita is the only the Raisa source is the tchum of 12 mil, which is the extent of Machne Yisrael in the Midbar. That is the that is the Raisa. But of course, since the 2,000 amos is not the Raisa, so therefore in 2,000 amos we're making, and we go after them whatever measure was the more lenient measure. And that's it for today.